Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hello and welcome to a live episode of Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
This is our first ever live appearance. We are here at Rogue Comics in Cranford, New Jersey. Thank you to Pete and the fantastic crew here at Rogue Comics. Please, if you are in the Union County, New Jersey area or North Central New Jersey at all, please stop by Rogue. I have been coming here for at least like 9 years. I was here back at their old location across the street. I've been coming here since they moved to this spot, probably I'd say maybe 5-6 years ago. And it's just a fantastic little shop. It's got that nice, cozy comic book shop feel, but the folks here do not make you feel awkward or unwelcome. So please,
is some awesome stuff here.
Yeah, there is a lot of
at the walls.
A lot of quality memorabilia. If I were a millionaire, I would definitely come here and drop a lot of money on this place. They've got that cap shield that I've had my eye on for a long time. Yeah. They've got so many figurines. If you're into Funko Pops at all, they've got a huge section of Funko Pops, figurines, and obviously a massive collection of comics, current, Marvel, DC, IDW, Dark Horse, indie stuff, back catalogs, just a whole wall of trades. So we definitely encourage all of our fans, if you are in the area. I don't think they have much in the way of like online ordering. Okay. I wish that were the case.
Yeah.
But
And if you're into hoarding, then I could probably give you a few references for some therapists to help with that. Just saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I hoard stuff. My wife may disagree, but I don't think that I hoard stuff. So thank you, everyone. Like I said, everyone who's here for showing up. Please patronize the show. Please patronize Pete's establishment, and I don't mean talking down to him. This is going to be a little more loose of an episode than your average one, just based on the location and how we're feeling. So we'll see how this goes. Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out and thank you to, we have a brand new patron, Lady Denali. So thank you so much for subscribing. We appreciate the love.
Ooh,
and
Denali, how fancy.
Yeah, very cool. So if you want to be cool like Lady Denali, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/capesonthecouch, and you can subscribe at the $1, $3, and $5 levels. You can unlock all sorts of cool stuff, advanced episodes. You get additional uncensored content. You can check out the full version of our New York Comic-Con episodes. So with our primarily the interviews that we did with Chris Claremont and Gail Simone. So lots of cool stuff there available only for patrons. So, and then we've got our TeePublic page if you want to buy some merch, and we've got some buttons, and we've got a shirt here that we can give away to a lucky fan. And last but not least, as we always do, we missed it last time, but I want to give a plug this week. This week's plug for another podcast is for Play Comics. This is a member of the Gonna Geek Network, and Chris and a random guest play a game that's based on comics, and then they talk about how accurately the game depicts what happens in the comics. So I have reached out to Chris for a potential guest spot on that show. Some of the really, really big popular games, he's trying to go chronologically, but some of the big popular games have already been taken. But I'd love to maybe play like Superman 64 and just talk about how horrible that game is.
Why would you torture yourself?
Because I want to talk about how horrible that game is.
So wait. For anybody that's never played that game, let's just make this simple. Fly through rings.
Yeah, that's basically, and then fly through fog. And then fly through rings in fog.
Yeah, it's kryptonite.
So you're flying through rings, you fly through fog, and then you fly through rings in fog. It's more boring than Superman Returns, if such a thing were possible. So, but since we are here, and we're not here to talk about video games, we're here to talk about comics, and our present level patron Brian is here, and Brian is actually the one who selected this episode for us, and we will be talking about the one, the only Colossus, Peter Rasputin. So, organic steel-clad member of the X-Men. Piotr Nikolayevich Rasputin was created by Len Wein and Dave Cockrum in the famous giant-size X-Men #1, May 1975. This was the issue that introduced a whole slew of new X-Men characters, Storm and, as I said, Colossus and many others. And introduced Wolverine was created prior to that, but Wolverine sort of joined the X-Men in that issue. So it's a very, very famous one. So Peter was born on a Soviet collective farm with his family, including his sister Ilyana, also known as Magik. We're going to get into their relationship in a little bit. As a teen, he saved Ilyana from a runaway tractor, and that's where he discovered that he had the ability to turn his body into organic steel. And it's a very interesting. I see Doc shaking his head. Yeah, I know that's not a thing. I know that's not real, but all the stuff we've talked about, this is issue number 62. We've done 62 episodes, and now you're going to shake your head at, no, that's not realistic in terms of what can happen to your body. That's where you draw the line?
No, not really. It's just the visual of it is so fascinating to me, because the choice of steel specifically in Russia with the icon for the flag, steel hammer, iron fist, that sort of thing.
No, Iron Fist is a separate character. So he joined the X-Men when Professor Xavier put together a team of mutants to rescue the original X-Men on Krakoa, which is the plot of the Giant X-Men #1, and he stayed on as a member of the team. So at one point, he helped save the Fall people in the Savage Land. I love the Savage Land just as a concept. It's so wacky and out there. It's like underneath the ice, but there's dinosaurs and a jungle. It's very weird. So he saved the Fall people in the Savage Land and started a brief romantic relationship with a woman named Nereel that resulted in a child named Peter, although Colossus doesn't know he's the father. Now, I know organic steel is thick, but your skull has to be really friggin' thick. He goes back years later to visit her. The father is gone. The child's name is Peter. He had a relationship with her, and yet he doesn't put two and two together.
Hey, man, no DNA test. You just go with it.
Yeah, but there's no, mutant Maury Povich going, you are the father. That's not the case anyway. So he later started a relationship with Kitty Pryde, and that's going to be one of the things that we definitely discuss more in depth. But things ended shortly thereafter. They've been on again, off again. Then he was temporarily paralyzed during a battle with Riptide after snapping his neck and was unable to return to human form for a time. And so then we find out about the legacy virus, and that's a very famous thing that is in a lot of X-Men storylines. And Ilyana dies from the legacy virus, and Colossus just becomes so brokenhearted and torn inside that he joins Magneto's acolytes for a while, because he feels that, first off, Xavier's whole mutants and people can cohabitate in peace. He's not too sure about that, but then he realizes that even though Magneto has taken a very hardline stance on these things, he feels that as a member of the team, he can soften it from the inside, so he can sort of change from within.
So the idea that he might actually be able to see an opposing point of view and try and incorporate the positive points without automatically wholeheartedly discarding the things that he's known and learned over his entire lifetime, that actually sounds pretty mature.
It is. I think, frankly, we need some more of that in our modern day political discourse, but I'm not gonna open up that can of worms. So, yeah. So he rejoins the X-Men, and then, long story short, he ends up sacrificing himself to spread the cure to the legacy virus. So he dies.
The dumbest thing in the world. Okay, I apologize. I know I'm getting.
Oh, Doc's gonna go off.
No, it's not going off. It's just simply the idea that, let's make sure that this is airborne. How do we make sure it's airborne? Oh, well, the first person that gets exposed to it, they basically have to completely succumb to the virus, and therefore it'll create a large enough viral load that it can just spread. If something is airborne, it's airborne. If something is not spread airborne, it doesn't just magically transform because of the amount of exposure. There's no justification for that.
But comics.
Fine.
That's your justification.
Fine.
After 62 episodes, it's comics.
Okay.
And we just got done talking about organic steel, and you shaking your head, and now you're also going to draw the line on, no, well, that's not how airborne viruses and retrovirals are spread. That's where you draw the line.
Okay.
I'm busted. So it's later revealed, like many years later, that his body was stolen. So they cremated Colossus, or what they thought was Colossus, but it's revealed that his body was stolen by an alien named Ord to experiment on him. And so then he ends up getting rescued by the X-Men, and he restarts his relationship with Kitty until she sacrifices herself to save the Earth from Breakworld because they were sending a giant bullet towards the Earth, and she just phases literally the entire thing.
She didn't know it was a bullet. She thought it was some sort of controlled missile. She thought if she got into it, she could change its trajectory, but then it just turns out it's this random thing that she now has to stay permanently phased in her, ghost form. So yeah, that's
one of my favorite Colossus moments, though, happens during this thing because it's discovered that Breakworld feels that Colossus is prophesied to be the one to destroy Breakworld, and so they asked Colossus about this because they said, "Do you know anything about this?" And he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but yes, it's been my lifelong mission to destroy Breakworld and to basically kill all the people on it. And everybody's like, what? And like they start flipping out, and he basically says, "See, this is why I don't make so many jokes. I never know when is good time."
Yeah.
Because he's just so dry about the whole thing. He's just like, "Oh yeah, I've always meant to destroy Breakworld. What? You didn't know about that? That's been
I work with someone like that. Their sense of humor is fantastic, but they deliver everything so deadpan that most people can't tell when it's a joke.
Oh yeah, my old roommate is that way. Jay. Yeah. Jay is very deadpan. God love him, but he's very straight-laced.
All right.
So in World War Hulk, he battles the Hulk, who breaks his arms while in metal form, just literally snaps them back at the forearm.
Okay, I don't have anything else to say to that. That's just really badass.
No, that is absolutely badass. So then they have to heat them up, and then strong guy has to bend them back while he's still in metal form to straighten them out because he can't return to his human form. Otherwise, he'll be in serious pain.
In all honesty, that's not that far off from a lot of orthopedic procedures when you have to set bones or, heaven forbid, a combination of burn injury and physical fractures. You can load up as many opioids or anything as you want. It's not going to change the fact that that's going to hurt really bad.
Oh no, it's going to hurt like a mother. I'm not arguing that. So then he gains the powers of the Juggernaut after a while. For a while after Sidorak takes them back from Cain Marko. And here's the thing. Magik offers herself, but Peter intercepts, and now Peter is the Juggernaut.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit off tangent here because that whole story arc, including the serpent and everything like that, what happened to one of the things that you adore here? You remember that storyline? Did you read that?
Oh, Fear Itself? Yeah, I read bits and pieces of it. I don't recall it with major specificity.
The shield was broken, man.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The shield was broken.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Not for nothing, a lot of stuff happened in Fear Itself that ended up just sort of going away. Because comics.
Yeah.
So now he's the Juggernaut. He's Colossus plus Juggernaut. Then he gains the power of the Phoenix Force during the Avengers vs. X-Men. And Magik also. So there's so it's Emma, Cyclops, Colossus, Magik, and Namor. Namor loses it, so then the other four get more powerful.
Yeah, because Namor should never have anything. That's just a personal opinion.
Doc is not a fan of Namor the Submariner. So then Spider-Man manages to trick Colossus and Ilyana into fighting each other, and then they take each other out of the Phoenix Force because Pete is just that smart. So then Ilyana reveals that this was part of all of her plan all along because she wanted him to feel pain and regret. And then she uses her soul sword to basically free Sidorak's influence while he's in limbo. And she says, I could have done this at any time, but I wanted you to know that I don't deserve your love.
That's pretty cold.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So he's like, that's the next time I see you, I'm going to kill you. Because she betrays him. She breaks his spirit down. And yet, as far as I can tell, chronologically and canonically, the next time they meet, she convinces him to rejoin the X-Men. This is an Extraordinary X-Men #1. And she convinces him to rejoin the X-Men. And he's like, oh, Ilyana, my beautiful sister, I love you so much. And he's like hugging her and everything. It's like, didn't you just say, I'm going to kill you next time I see you? And then the next time...
Limbo. It's not exactly the same thing. Things change.
I know that his sister's been under the influence of a demonic power for, long time, but I just feel that this was, you couldn't have looked into that a little bit.
Hey.
And then she's the one who convinces him, oh, come on, brother, let's rejoin the X-Men and we need to fight for mutant kind. Side note, in between all of that, he battled Kane Marko once again for the power of Sidorak, and Kane regains the power of the Juggernaut, but he tricks Kane into burying himself under rock. So then, like I said, then he rejoins the X-Men. Then he restarts his relationship with Kitty, and they get back together. And then she proposes to him, and then leaves him on the altar. That is some cold-blooded stuff.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you know what?
Brutal.
It's our relationship isn't really based on love. It's based on a lot of messed up stuff. You couldn't have thought of that maybe before you were at the altar in the gown and the whole shebang?
Well, hey, sometimes it takes that type of event for someone to make a decision.
I understand that. I'm just saying it seems, it's messed up is what I'm saying. So he gets so heartbroken, he goes back to Russia. So
okay.
That's sort of and then I know he's in one of the House of X Powers of 10 books with the whole Krakoa storyline.
I'm not going to pretend and say that I'm completely up to date, man.
Yeah, I confess I have not been up to date on the new X-Men storylines and Hickman's brand new rebirth of the entire mutant story. So that is our somewhat lengthy background on Colossus. And now let's get into the issue. So the first one that I want to talk about, because I think chronologically it's obviously one of the first things to discuss, is his relationship with Ilyana. Mm-hmm. His relationship with his sister is very fraught with a lot of drama.
Okay.
And it's volatile because Ilya takes advantage of her brother's love and we'll get into this in a little bit, but Peter is, and one of the reasons why Brian picked him is because Peter is such an inherently good character. He is a very clean-cut, the portrayal in the Deadpool movies is not all that dissimilar from the version in the comics. Yeah. He's a little more, straight man to Deadpool in the movies than typical. But in the comics, Colossus is very much the straight-laced, the do-gooder, the very pure soul, heart of gold. And Ilyana is very much not. And she knows that. And as has been shown, she takes advantage of him in a number of occasions. And as can be seen a lot of times with siblings, where one sibling is very loving and another sibling has less than pure intentions, that can really create a fraught dynamic, because you end up with a situation where the I don't want to say good and bad, but the less pure intention sibling takes advantage. And it starts to make a little more, jaded person. But yeah, Colossus never seems to go fully jaded.
I was going to say, that sounds like a completely different direction than what Colossus does.
No, but that's what I'm saying is so I think that's very interesting. But let's get into the relationship with Ilyana. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, so first of all, let's acknowledge that although it gives bits and pieces here and there, we don't know exactly how they grew up together, if it was always equal footing, if it was a matter of, he always wanted to protect her and she always was a rebel, whatever. I don't know. The fact that there was a specific event in which he saved her life and he has a major discovery about himself, that was a 2-for-1 shot. So on one hand, it's what any family member would do. You just basically say, I need to make sure everyone does as well as they can, make sure they survive. On the other hand, the other part to this was that he knew for a fact that once this happened and he discovers this about himself, that nothing's going to be the same. So how do you mix those two? He basically can, in theory, think, all right, if I have this, first thought is they're siblings, maybe she has something too. As of course, throughout the rest of the comics, we learn that she does have some stuff going on, but that doesn't mean that they all knew that all at the same time. the fact that he has this nature to just inherently be a nurturer, at least that's the way I've viewed Colossus, just a guy that just wants to, protect the things around him, honestly simplify his life, keep things as straightforward as possible, and it's the outside influences that lead him to have to take some sort of action. The fact that it was his sister, it played pretty well into his strengths. Not even talking about the steel part. On the other hand, did his sister ask for any of that? Did she want to be in danger? Did she want to have to react to traumatic experiences? Of course not. That's not fair. So I'm sure that she was grateful that someone like Colossus would be able to help out, similar to how Brian is helping out Anthony to make sure that our stream stays, perfectly upright, which it won't because nothing happens perfectly. She is just trying to find her own separate way. So I think there was no real direct conversation until they became adults to determine what the goals of each of them were. So I wouldn't put blame on her. I wouldn't put blame on him. I think that's a matter of saying, we never had the opportunity to discuss this. It's just whatever gets thrown at our way, we're just going to react however we react. And if it happens that the two of us are in the same vicinity or the two of us have to do something together, then cool, things are going to work out. Unfortunately, it turns out that she does have other goals and other motivations. That sucks. I'm not even sure, because I don't know as much about Magik as I do Colossus. I'm not sure I could say that that's malicious. I know that's the way it's written, but as I look at the development of the character, I'm not so sure about that. I think we've discussed this almost ad nauseum when it comes to just rank in families and age differences and what that can do to sibling relationships. I'm not sure that this could have been avoided another way.
Well, I just want to interject real quick that we didn't even mention the third Rasputin sibling, which was Mikhail, who was a cosmonaut who was believed dead for a period of time and then came back and ended up becoming a villain and so on and so forth, so they had to battle him. Yeah. And then the whole descendants of Rasputin storyline, that Rasputin was somehow returning from the dead to take over all of his descendants to regain his power. So there's that aspect of the storyline. So there's a lot of trauma and drama in this family tree. So I when you were talking about the sibling relationship, so I believe Mikhail was the oldest, and then Peter, and then Magik, who Ilyana, who was the youngest by several years until she went into limbo and aged. She aged several years within limbo, but it was only seconds passing in our, in the real world, so to speak. Yeah,
so that's a good point. You know what? I hadn't even really given that much thought. The idea. And that, I think there is a realistic way to portray that too. There are situations that families are going to be different, and sometimes family members are separated. So in other words, be it divorce, be it, just plain old separation, one sibling goes with one parent, another sibling goes with another parent, or, vice versa, whatever. And so now you're talking about different experiences, even if you have the same biology. So when you get separation like that, it can just change the dynamic, because as humans, we have a natural tendency to think that things are going to stay exactly the way as they are right now. So she gets an experience aging away from everything else. He's going about his life in his own way. And when they next meet up, as we already said, he has a different mindset because he was thinking of one thing, and she's obviously at this point way beyond anything that he was considering. So when you get that disconnect, that's automatically going to create some level of conflict. It could be minor, it could be huge. So, I think stuff like that can be incredibly random. And like I said, the main thing is I wouldn't put blame anywhere. I think it's more, instead of going by heroes and villains, I think it's more people have different opinions and people have different ways that they handle certain stresses. He's much more of the, like I said, protector, wants to make sure everything is all right at all times. She's more of the, things happen as they may. I know I got to fight to survive. I got to come out on top.
That's what I said.
You know? What do you call it? I mean, that's true I think that's true for all families. I don't think that's unique to them.
No, I certainly think that's the case, and I do understand and agree that families that siblings that go through different experiences at different times, be it age difference, distance, what have you, sometimes view the same, even if they go through a similar experience. They may come out of it with very different ideas of what happened. They may come out of it with different viewpoints. Yeah. And that's just due to the nature of the individual personalities to some extent. So segueing in, and I want to use Ilyana and his relationship with his sister as a contrast to the other famous relationship that he has, and that's with Kitty Pryde. Yeah. Whereas with Ilyana, she takes advantage of him because of his good nature. I think Kitty, to some extent, almost feels that she doesn't deserve Peter because of how good he is, and that Kitty's gone through a lot herself, and I'm not saying Kitty is this, horrendous person who's unworthy of love or anything like that, but one of the things that Kitty struggles with is Kitty sometimes has difficulty with the leadership role. As she grows older, she embraces it, and there again, there's a major age difference, and so she thinks of Peter sometimes as a brother, and then sometimes she loves him, and she's uncertain. There's a lot of love there. I will say this. There's a lot of love between Kitty and Peter. It's just not always clean. And
okay, that's an interesting choice of words there to say clean. What do you mean?
What I mean is it's messy, frankly, that it can be messy. And so when I say it's not clean, I mean I'm literally saying that because they struggle sometimes to express how they feel about each other. Okay. And that because they go through so much, this isn't a normal human type relationship. The struggles that we face as people are not the same ones that mutants face, just by virtue of the whole host of things going on in the Marvel universe. And so that because they have different viewpoints of how to address those concerns, I think that creates also a conflict within their relationship.
Okay, that's a possibility, and I'm not even disagreeing with you about it.
Okay, I mean, hey, listen, if you have another take on it, I'm willing to listen. I'm just taking it from my perspective.
I understand.
As someone who's tangentially read X-Men comics, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm not the biggest X-Men fan.
I've noticed
nothing against them. I just haven't gotten into them. But
I noticed that it seemed like Kitty was really attracted to a certain level of, depending on how it was written, either the naivete or the general innocence that Colossus portrays in a lot of ways, and the fact that, and I know we'll get to this in the next topic, but the fact that he's a gentle giant. He really just has a way about him that seems to calm situations. And so she's attracted to that, but as you said, attracted in what way? I mean, there's obvious romantic attraction there. That's fine. That's wonderful. But also, because of Kitty's own background, she can interpret it a different way. He can be a father figure. He can be a big brother. The difference, and I'm saying this in general in real life, it doesn't have to be comic book characters, the difference is when you make that step, when it's clearly delineated that this is now someone who is your lover, this is someone who you're dating, whatever it is, you cross that line. And that's fine. That's great. Relationships change, relationships grow. And if you break up, you can still be friends. That's fine. But you're not going to be able to revert back to exactly how it was before you ever started dating. And I think that turmoil between the two is more important than whether or not she had certain previous experiences or he had previous experiences. I think the relationship itself created a lot of that drama. So, for example, it was well established that Colossus was willing to die for her. And in the comics, it, maybe not in these words, but at one point she actually flips that question completely on its head. Like, you keep making these sacrifices. You keep saying you're willing to die for me. Are you willing to live for me? Are you willing to give up some of the things that you feel like you have to do outside of our relationship so that we can be good together? That's a really strong question, because we all have goals within our family that we want to do. We have goals outside of our family that we want to do. And finding that balance is really tough. and she was calling him out on the carpet about it. And vice versa. Clearly, if she's willing to say, sure, let's get married. Nah, never mind. That can't be. You cannot maintain a relationship that way. You know, you would like to think, as you already said, that they've gone through the entire process of what the expectations would be if they're going to make the contract to spend their lives together and do all of the intermingling of everything and make that as solid as possible. But I almost hesitate to say this, but almost using it almost as a contingency, like, this one thing's off, okay, never mind, I'm going to pull everything away. That's a pretty rough way to go. In other words, at this point, the two of them have created this dynamic, even if they haven't said it to each other. All right, if everything is absolutely perfect at one time, where we both are on the same page and nothing is going to ever go wrong, then we can make this work long term. Anything outside of that, and forget it. That's not realistic. That's just my
No, that's not realistic. No matter who you are, no matter what's going on, you can't base a relationship on the hopes that as long as everything stays perfect, we're good. Because nothing is ever perfect. Right. Life is never perfect. You and I are both married. That's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. No, what I mean is, I love your wife and you love mine. I love my wife and I know that you love yours. My point is that we love them in spite of and because of their flaws.
Right.
That you have to be willing to accept the whole person. You can't just say, well, as long as everything's going great, because that's not love. Then that's, I don't want to say cowardice, but that's cheap to say, I'm only with you as long as the going is good.
Gotcha.
And I think that stands to reason no matter the nature of the relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it's romantic, whether it's friendship, whether it's anything.
Yeah.
It's anything is fine and it's easy when everything is going great. It's when the chips are down, when your back is against the wall, when you're really facing struggles. How do you cope with that?
True.
How do you? Because I think those are the moments that make relationships. Those are the moments that define relationships. And the fact that Kitty was looking at the history of everything and basically saying, you know what, we're not good together. Like, I get it. I'm not saying she has to stay with Peter.
Right.
I'm just saying her timing sucked. That was just not cool. Like,
right. I wouldn't. Yeah, I would never recommend anybody do that.
No. Okay. I mean, if you have to leave them, I'm not saying stay in the relationship. I'm not saying get married, but God, I hope you pick a better time to figure it out than when you're, when you're standing up there and you're looking at the other person, you're going, you know what? Nah.
You know what? Now that you mentioned that, it reminds me of. I'm gonna bring this back. Do you remember? I think it was Chris Rock, Bring the Pain, where he points out at that point both people recognize the relationship is on the outs, but then a person just says some innocuous comment like, "I gotta go," and they basically, says, "All right, get your suitcase, get out of here." It's like, to the store. Whoops. That's that's kind of the thing we're talking about here.
Yeah. So, both of the relationships that we've discussed tie in perfectly to the third point that I want to bring up, which is the duality of Colossus's nature. The fact that he is this kind-hearted and very gentle person. He is, as you said earlier, the gentle giant, and yet his mutant ability is this hulking, nigh indestructible warrior, a fighter. I love the duality of that. The fact that he's has the strength, and typically, so many times you see that a character who is the personification of strength and the ability to have such raw brutality, and yet Peter, at one point, we didn't really get into this in the background, but he was an artist.
Yeah.
He's a very gentle soul, and so he's often called upon to do a lot of the hard fighting, to do a lot of the brute work. But he doesn't want to, because that's not who he is. And it's almost like he's cursed with this ability that is at odds with who he is as a person. And I think that internal struggle makes him into a very compelling character, given the correct writer, I'll put it that way. As we've seen with literally pretty much any character. And, it's a good writer or a bad writer can make or break a character. But I think that's a very interesting thing. And so what are some of your thoughts on the duality of Colossus as the body of a warrior, a nigh indestructible fighter, with the soul of, a gentle soul?
I can expand it a little further. The idea that you have other people that notice external talents or abilities or predilections that they're trying to mold for one purpose. Meanwhile, you have your own internal motivational factors that are diametrically opposed to that. So, in the real world, not so far off from comics, it can be a situation where a parent is trying to push their kid into athletics when all they want to do is draw or paint or do other things that the parents think are useless. As a child, you can be molded into doing something even if you don't seem to have the effort that you would expect if it was something that you truly enjoyed. But as we become adults, now it's all within our purview. And I'm going to add another complicating factor to this. What if, for example, with Colossus, all the things that he does with his strength are actually doing good. They're actually producing a positive societal effect. He's able to fight off villains. He's able to save people. As opposed to the idea that you could, in theory, and yes, I'm going to use this as a stereotype. I'm not supporting this as a stereotype, just pointing it out. You're the quote-unquote starving artist, and that's really what he would want to be, just kind of isolated by himself or with the few people that he gets to know closely and loves. And he wants that life and knows that because so many other people are relying on what he does on a regular basis, he can't have that. He sacrificed a part of what he considers to be his true self for the greater good. That sounds very noble. That could also lead to a lot of depression, because if you personally do not feel satisfied with what you're doing in life, you're going to have a sense of longing, a sense of emptiness, that nothing else, unless you come up with some alternatives, is going to be filled. So even the interactions he has with other people, it's very clear which side of the aisle they're on. Kitty straddles it. Ilyana manipulates it. Everybody else basically just goes with that other utilitarian, hey buddy, you're doing a good job, just keep doing that and we're gonna be just fine. They don't have to worry about the nuance that he struggles with on a daily basis. And it's interesting that the way he's written, he really does acquiesce frequently. I'm amazed that at some point I would like someone to take the stand where I'm not talking about, turning him into a villain or anything like that, but just more along the lines of not just exiling to Russia or whatever, just, you know what, I just want to do something for me for a little while and not have to worry about saving the world. And just see what that's like.
Well, he's done that. That has happened in comics. That happened shortly after Ilyana took the power of Sidorak away from him, that he went back to Russia and he took some time to find himself. And then, like I said, that got changed because the mutant kind was under attack from the Inhumans and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
so.
but that's what I'm getting at. Every time something else comes up, it's like, well, can't stay on this path, gotta go back. I'm saying, actually have that resistance. Say, you know what? No, not anymore. I'm not gonna do that anymore. To stick with it. There's a difference between saying, I'm taking a break, I'm taking a sabbatical, and no, I really am done with this, and I am truly changing my trajectory in life. There is a difference.
Well, at least, again, from the way Extraordinary X-Men #1 was written, he was planning. He was on the farm, he was working, he was doing all that stuff, and then Ilyana shows up and convinces him to come back.
Right, but you're saying it. Convinces him. It wasn't as if he said, all right, I know for a fact I got to do it this way or whatever. It was more like...
No, I would have liked to have seen that, also because I think it would have been more true to what had happened previously, where he said, next time I see you, I'm going to kill you.
Right. The idea that...
even if he didn't kill her, he was said, what are you doing here? I'm not interested in anything you have to say. And she's like, oh, but mutants are under attack. And he's like, that's fine. I'm gonna do me.
Right. And since
I'm out.
And since unfortunately, part of my job and my training is to find things that are pathological, I want to point out that this isn't necessarily automatically pathological. The idea that someone is trying to be not the stereotypical nice guy, but genuinely being a nice guy, that can be a wonderful thing in life. And to have people like that in society makes it a much better place to live. So I don't want to make it sound like this is all a horrible thing that he has this trait. It's more along the lines that he can have a better balance for himself, and he can do it without the coercion of others. I know we've mentioned this in a previous episode where, oh yeah, I remember because it was the only time I had like a really cool line, drop the S, he's Pawn.
Oh yeah, I remember that from the Spawn episode, right.
Right. He's not manipulated to that level, but you could tell he looks to go with the flow of a situation, and if it's gonna make other people happy, then fine, he'll subjugate. But he can take over a situation way more than any of these other characters by brute strength, and that draws attention. And the other thing that I think we didn't quite touch on, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want the spotlight. He doesn't mind the results. He doesn't mind the work. He doesn't mind being a grunt. But the idea that he has to receive some level of adulation or disdain or whatever, like those results, he doesn't really care for that. Unless it's someone that he really cares about. He wants to make sure that they appreciate him. But everybody else, he'd much rather be in the background. So I'm shocked, like I said, that isn't played more as to why he would ultimately make a decision not to keep going back to this. So,
I think it's a situation where he's a popular character, and they want to just keep bringing him back, and because if I understand that what you're suggesting is potentially true to character, but then that takes him out of the stories.
Yeah.
And then he's not.
That's fair.
He's not in the books because he goes, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to get involved. And then you have a team without Colossus, and everybody's going, where's Colossus?
It's like the negative Poochie, huh?
Yeah.
Like the anti-Poochie. Okay.
The anti-Poochie, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If Colossus isn't in the book, everybody's standing around going, where's Colossus? So, interesting thoughts. So we're gonna take a short break. We're gonna plug some of our friends, and then when we come back, we're gonna get into treatment.
Hey, my name's Paul, and I'm not an animal expert.
I'm Donna, and I'm not an animal expert either.
And together we do a podcast about animals called Varmints.
Every week we pick an animal, do a bunch of research on it, and bring you some interesting facts about that animal.
But we don't stop there. We talk about that animal in movies, TV, and other pop culture.
And we talk about whether or not that animal would make a tasty dish, and how intelligent we think it is on the scale of 1 to 10.
It's exactly like one of those fancy PBS nature documentaries.
Except with more poo jokes.
New episodes go live every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Or you can visit us at blazingcariboustudios.com.
Varmints! Varmints!
Do you or someone you know struggle through life with anxiety-related mental disorders? Ever get that feeling that you are one of the few? I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. Take a journey with me as I talk about key points in my past and how they may have led to me being diagnosed with anxiety and panic disorder. After which, we will talk about different ways to tone down the anxiety and maybe even beat it together on anxiety. The easiest way to remember the name is by thinking about how one searches for a state of zen in the midst of the anxieties of life. My name is Gerald, and I'm the host of Anxiety.
Hi, this is Al Ewing, and you're listening to Capes on the Couch.
And so we're back, and starting as we always do with the in-universe treatment, what would you say to Colossus? And I know we've mentioned, as we typically do with a lot of our mutant characters, that they are on the same team with a whole host of, telepaths and folks like that. Is that something you would get into, or you would utilize, or would you go a different route? What would your take be for Colossus?
I think I'd have to find out, is this with Kitty or without Kitty? Because two different approaches. And it would come from him. If he thinks that this can be worked out and he would want to pursue that, then I would encourage him to the best of his ability to basically do a couple session. And I know I've mentioned in the past that you need some sort of moderation. With them, I don't think so. I don't think that's necessary. I think they can fairly talk in a civil manner that wouldn't require a telepath or anything like that. I think, though, I would like to see if I could get him to use one of the coping skills that you mentioned, and you kind of stole my thunder. I actually had thought of it ahead of time. He enjoys art. He really does. And yet, because of other obligations, he doesn't really get to explore it as much. Dude, you are a huge guy anyway, and you can convert to metal. What kind of art can you build? You want to do some sort of sculpture? You want to make another wonder of the world? What do you want to do? Something that would allow him an outlet that people would acknowledge is hard work. Because often when people look at these types of coping mechanisms, they basically discredit them. They say like, oh, well, that's nonsense. That's useless. No, it's not. First of all, from an emotional standpoint, it's never useless. But second of all,
preach.
How many times we wouldn't have this? We wouldn't have this art form. We wouldn't have this comic shop if it weren't for artists. So the idea that someone like Colossus, in theory, could recreate things that have been destroyed. Literally, he could recreate the Colossus by himself. I'm pretty sure people would say, that dude, he knows how to create art. And it would get the respect that he deserves in a way that would be lasting beyond himself, meaning providing a benefit to society, which is what clearly he wants. And he could do it in a format that is not causing harm to anyone or getting into confrontations with anyone, and ultimately allows him the outlet that he would be able to express himself in a way that would purely be his own, because he can't do it any other way right now. So that's him individually. If it's him and Kitty, like I said, that I don't have any special format that I would say for couples therapy. That's more just two people talking with a person to help guide them to whatever goals they have. And I know I haven't even mentioned his sister, and that's mainly because it's presented as much more adversarial. So I think I would just focus on him and how he wants to handle not just her, but other people that clearly are looking for secondary gains from him, and help boost his techniques so that he doesn't have to feel like a puppet. That's a big part of this. He doesn't have to just automatically do what other people are telling him, even if they have good reasons. He can have good reasons on his own. He just has to figure out what they are. If they match up, great, you do it. If they don't match up, then what are the techniques that you need to develop so that you don't automatically just do what other people want you to do anyway?
Okay, well, I apologize for stealing your thunder with the art thing. I just, it was one of those things.
No, there's no way you could have known that.
It was one of those things that I just mentioned, but after you brought it up, I thought, yeah, you know what? That is, art therapy is a very it's very legit, and it's very helpful.
It's one of the rare things that I really hadn't mentioned specifically in all of these episodes so far. And I realized this was a great opportunity to introduce it to hopefully people if you've never even heard of it or never even thought of it. This is not something that has to be guided. You do not automatically need a specialized therapist to do this. If you have something that you want to learn, you live in an age where you can find out just about anything you want.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video, there's a blog, there's a Pinterest, there's a podcast about it. If whatever your interest is, you can find someone to teach you how to do it and to get better at it. So I think that's a very key thing, and so that's helpful for our listeners. So out of universe, a real person, I guess an analog to me would be maybe, I don't know. What would you say would be a real life Colossus or with these problems?
Okay. On again, off again, sometimes directly jilted lover who has more of a passive side to how they go through life, despite what people would consider to be amazing talents or just things that they, in the eyes of the rest of society, aren't utilizing in the best way.
I was thinking almost maybe an athlete with, with a softer side that, has some artistic abilities that they can tap into. As a Panthers fan, I'm thinking of like Christian McCaffrey who can play the piano, or Jonathan Stewart.
You selfish son of a gun.
I'm just saying that's what I think of. These, especially somebody like Jonathan Stewart, a big bruising power running back, and yet incredibly musically talented, very gifted piano player.
Right.
So
no,
that's just something.
That's true. I mean, Eddie George took up acting after he retired. There's plenty of examples of, and I'll go with it. Yeah, the idea that you haven't, let's say, an athlete that is kind of looking in a transition point. They've fulfilled the quote-unquote obligations of everybody that they expect, and now they've been, sorry to say this, but the way society views it, they're relegated to whatever it is that you guys do after you turn 30 or 35.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we're 37, 38. Like, at this point, folks our age that have been professional athletes, like, you're done. The folks that go on past this point are very, very rare.
Right. So the idea is you need to find out, after you've dedicated your entire life to one craft, one vocation, what's next? What do you do? How do you handle that transition? And in this case, I am going to say that it's a good idea to get some professional help with it, because ignoring it or trying to, quote unquote, live on your glory days, we've seen how that movie ends in general. You end up very isolated, often either relying on people that, no offense, don't have much else going in their lives, and you are the only thing that was positive, and therefore they're going to hold on to memories of you doing good things. So that's nice, but you can't rely on just having a fan and, living your life that way. Sorry, Brian. Sorry, Ruby. What I'm getting at is there's a difference between having adulation and actually having true meaning and experiences in life. That's what you need. So having someone do some sort of guidance, and for example, guided meditation, saying, what do you envision? Almost going back to childhood. There was a period of time for just about all of us where you just knew in your mind you could do or be anything. And you would and not all kids, but many kids would change their mind from month to month about what they wanted to be. Some of them were fantastical, some of them were realistic, but whatever it was, you knew that they were all potential. They were all possibilities. Scary thought, because as adults, we've learned to curtail that and almost eliminate it. Especially, though, in comics, I'll say, take advantage of the fact that you have plenty of material and source information to say, bring that back a little bit. What is it that you thought that you could never do, or when you were a kid thought that might have been possible that now you say is not possible? And challenge those suppositions. How do you flip it? Is there something that sounds ridiculous to you? As a matter of fact, if there's something that you laugh at about yourself, try it. Go ahead. In other words, someone like, I'll just use myself as an example, and you've heard me say this. I said, if at some point, when I feel like I'm not providing as much value or I'm just exhausted when it comes to mental health, I might do an encore career. And it might have nothing to do with anything that I've been doing up to this point. It's something that I really enjoy on the side, but I don't have the expertise and therefore can't do it yet. But just saying, why would I even have that idea? Because I know life.
What is the encore career?
It's going to sound like the most nerdy freaking thing in the world.
Lay it on me.
Financial planning.
Okay. I've known you've been interested in that stuff for a very long time. So
I know, I know, but it's just, the reason I say it that way, though, is because to a lot of people that sounds like, wow, you just took like something that sounds really exciting to a lot of people in terms of mental health, psychology, psychiatry, and all of that, and then you would say, financial planning sounds like the most boring thing in the world. Maybe to you, not to me. And that's the point. it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. It just has to make sense to the person. And as long as they're willing to explore it, you can be wrong. That's the best part. You can be totally inaccurate about it. But you give yourself the opportunity to think in different ways. And that plasticity, that mental plasticity, is much more important for longevity and enjoyment of life and enjoyment of transitions than just about anything else. Another statement that I like to use, and I apologize because I did not create this, it's by a person who was a former Marine. He actually fought in MMA. But hurry up and fail. In other words, we all wonder and worry if we're doing the right thing at every given point in our lives. As opposed to the idea that if you keep iterating and keep changing things with the idea that it's going to get better, then making mistakes is okay as long as you learn from them. But you're not going to make any mistakes doing the exact same thing and saying that you now have it perfect. So if you were in a career that's high intensity, you know, for example, I just mentioned financial planning. I'm not talking like Wall Street trader. If you were, you know, right there in New York and dealing with that pressure cooker and you're getting burnt out, then you can do that for a short period of time, but then say that, oh yeah, well that's how all my life's going to be for the rest of my life. I'm always going to go 100%, you know, balls to the wall. Like, I doubt it. Things are going to slow down a bit. How are you going to deal with that transition? Have you even looked at anything outside of it? Have you incorporated the people around you so that you'll be able to do these things? Did you ever think that family time was going to become more valuable to you because you're going to have more of it? You worked really hard, reap some of those rewards. So it's this balance to say that, yeah, I know I got to do this thing and I got to always do it this way, and it's going to produce a certain amount of results. That's going to become monotonous for many people. Change it up a little bit. If you need the guidance of someone that's a mentor, find it. If you need someone purely from a psychological standpoint to deal with the anxiety over it or the depression of the loss of a previous lifestyle or career, so be it. But you got to take that chance. You got to put yourself out there.
Or as Sean would say, when's the last time you did something for the first time?
Right.
That was sort of exactly where my brain was going with everything. So, interesting. I like that. And had I known you really wanted to be a financial planner, I wouldn't have called Edward Jones. I could have saved myself some money. I would have just talked to you and said, hey.
I just said I don't have the credentials. That's a bad idea.
You don't have the credentials, but you like doing it. Listen, you work it out on me. What do you think? I'm going to sue you?
Oh, my God. Yes, you're an attorney. Actually, 100%. Yes.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've actually been giving serious consideration to letting my credentials lapse and not renewing my law license because it's not anything that's been bringing me joy.
Okay, this is the first time I've heard this.
Yeah, it's not really something that's left my house much.
But that's my point. That just plays into exactly what the heck I was talking about.
Yeah, but to be fair, I don't work primarily as an attorney, so that's a little different.
I hear you. Okay.
It's more of a side gig, and it's costing me money. So,
wow, an attorney. That's okay.
So now you're going to get a Q&A in character with Colossus. So
I just thought it was interesting.
Mr. Brian, do you have questions for Colossus? Any questions you would like perhaps for me to answer?
All right.
No question for Colossus?
I have a potential question.
Okay.
It depends on whether or not I can find a certain picture. Just
please to ask the question.
Yeah, give me a second. Because I don't know if I can find this panel.
Do you or any of your friends have questions for Colossus as character? Nolan, do you have questions? I am answering questions in character as Colossus. Do you have perhaps maybe question for Piotr Rasputin?
What do you think Colossus is going to end up doing next?
He is Colossus, Nolan.
Where does his story go?
What do you mean his? Your story.
Where does your story go?
Are you talking about me picking flowers on Krakoa? I have taken a lot of time. I've been through many things. My Kätzchen, she leave me at the altar, break my heart, is very sad. I have heart of giant, body of warrior is very difficult for me to reconcile to. I feel that perhaps I will end up back in battle at some point with my fellow mutants because I believe in what it is that they are fighting for, and also because I do not wish to disappoint people. But is not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of convincing. I wish to live peaceful life, and I do not wish to engage in fighting unless it is absolutely necessary. So.
Okay. Because I had a feeling that I would have to throw in some questions.
Okay, I appreciate the thought.
Okay. I know that you are very kind and you do your best to see the good in everyone. Who is the X-Man or woman that you consider to be the most annoying?
The most annoying mutant character that I have dealt with... Wade can be difficult at times, not going to lie. Wade is difficult to deal with. Wade is difficult because Wade has great power. Wade has fantastic ability, a wonderful attitude to connect with people. Wade can be great leader if he chooses to. Unfortunately, Wade decide that cracking jokes and playing with penis is more enjoyable sometimes than helping people. And it's difficult for me to reach out to understand that mindset of being able to disregard greater good. I come from Russia, where greater good is everything, is all for greater good, and so I find Wade selfishness sometimes to be annoying character, given everything that he is capable of and everything that he can do. Is also not always fun to deal with cracking of jokes when we are fighting and trying to be serious. It's difficult sometimes to maintain concentration when we are battling.
Okay.
You mentioned something about the panel. Was there something you were looking up to see?
I couldn't find it.
You're not able to find.
Sorry,
Okay.
Sorry.
So I have a possible question. Do you prefer Colossus or Peter?
In my head, I am Peter. I respond to Colossus, but in my own mind, I am Peter.
So Peter, your obvious mutant ability is the ability to turn yourself into this impervious metallic object that
Yes.
almost nothing can hurt you. Do you wish that sometimes, like in the case of your potential wedding, you had an emotional barrier of a similar skill to protect you from people that...
The question is, do I wish I had emotional barrier similar to physical barrier to protect me from heartbreak? My response to that would be no, because I think to have emotional barrier would be to distance myself from people. I do not wish to create emotional barrier with people. I love people, I love to love, and I love to be loved. And so to create emotional barrier would make it difficult to find connections with people like my Katchen or with my sister, with whom I have very difficult relationship with, but I still love her. So for me to create emotional barrier and wall myself off from people would not be part of who I am as person. It would not make me better. It would not make me stronger. That is very much opposite of the way that I wish to view life. And so that is not something I would wish to have. The physical barrier I accept as part of who I am, but emotional barrier is not something that I would wish to have. I do not want to turn myself away from people. But is interesting question. I've not considered that possibility before.
Wow.
Doc seems like he maybe has another question pondering inside his mind.
So I'm not trying to create too many imaginary things, but you clearly see yourself at times as a protector or as someone that people can trust. I'm going to bring up the idea in general of being a parent, being a father. what types of things would you like to pass on to the next generation? And of course, I don't mean mutant powers or anything of the sort. What do you consider to be the most important things that a child should learn, and how you would be able to instill that in them?
I think is good question. I think one of the most important things would be to allow a child to be child. I think is important to give them opportunity to find themselves, to allow them innocence. My sister was not allowed much childhood. That was taken from her, and I think that is one of the reasons why she has become who she has become, because childhood was taken from her, and she was put literally through hell, and she never had that opportunity to be innocent, to be young, to find that themselves. So I think most important thing for children is to have freedom to figure out who they are, to make mistakes, to feel comfortable in own skin, whether organic steel or regular skin. Is important to feel comfortable within skin. And so for children, I would say let kids be kids, and let them have freedom to find themselves, and then also for them to understand that world can be rough, but world can also be a very beautiful place. And so I would encourage them to be part of spreading love and helping to make world a better place through that love. And I think one of the best ways to do that is by maintaining some semblance of that innocence and that joy and that wonderment. That world is a wonderful place, and if you keep that, then you become better child, you become better adult, and the world become better place.
Wow, that's an amazing answer.
If no more questions, I thank you for time, and I go back to Russia now, and go back to farm. Season is end of season, so a lot of work to be done on farm to prepare for very difficult Russian winter, as I'm sure you understand. Is very cold, so have to bundle up and drink lots of vodka.
In moderation.
What is moderation for me would kill you.
Fair enough.
That was fun. I always enjoy doing that stuff. All right, and we're back. So that's going to about wrap it up here for this episode. Want to again thank Pete and the staff here at Rogue Comics for letting us take over a little corner of their shop here for a little bit on a Wednesday night. It's New Comic Book Day. So again, if you are in the north central New Jersey area, please stop by Rogue Comics in Cranford, New Jersey. Tell Pete that we sent you. There's plenty of business cards, and we'll leave some pins and some paraphernalia here. So if you come by and say, hey, Capes on the Couch sent me, I'm sure Pete will help you out there. So the next episode that we're going to be doing is the history of depiction of psychiatry in comics.
It's bad. Okay, we're done.
It's not always bad.
No, I'm kidding.
It's getting a lot better.
Yeah, like I said, I'm kidding.
Wasp. There's a lot of more positive depictions of therapy and psychiatry in comics, but to your point, it hasn't always been stellar. So that one was chosen by Matt, who does love his thematic episodes, and we love doing them because it's always it's an interesting break.
Yeah.
Everybody always picks something different. Matt likes his thematic episodes. Ruby and Ariel like to swap back and forth between the heroes and the villains, and then Brian goes, throws a dart, and that's what he comes up with. Brian also, he picked Colossus and he picked Captain America. Brian likes for us to do the really good characters, the do-gooders.
It works. I appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I'm not exactly sure who's going to come up after that because we still have to talk to, I know Ariel needs to give us her next selection. Mm-hmm. Ruby has given us her next pick.
Right.
She wants us to do Robbie Reyes.
Right.
But I feel that one we're going to hold off until episode 66 because I feel episode 66... Ghost Rider.
If we added an extra 6, that would be. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say but we've got many years before we get to episode 666. If we make it to episode 666, I think that's going to be.
Yeah.
Then we've done something really special.
Oh yeah.
So, So I think Brian at this point is just going to hold the camera up because we're
pretty much done.
We're almost done here anyway. So as always, you can find us on our website at capesonthecouch.live. You find us pretty much wherever you find podcasts. If you are listening to us on a platform that allows you to like, rate, and review, and I'm going to steal this from our friends over at Freudian Sips, which is primarily Apple Podcasts or Podcatcher, or Podchaser, sorry, that if you leave us a review and then you email us with a picture of your rating and review, and you send us that picture and your address, we'll send you a sticker.
Yay!
So because we love reviews, and that's how we get fans. And yes, that sticker right there that Brian is holding up in front of the phone. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Vanna White. So you're like the models on The Price is Right, like Bob Barker. Spay and neuter your pets. So,
Keep your hands to yourself.
And yes, and keep your hands to yourself. The price is wrong, bitch.
Oh.
So, yeah, we mentioned the Patreon at the top of the show. We mentioned the TeePublic, our website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Capes on the Couch. And for those of you who enjoyed our Mental Health Avengers episode, we are working on coordinating the next one. I just recorded a guest spot on Ignorance Was Bliss. With the fantastic Kate, who's nominated for an award in the same category as Conan O'Brien and Mark Maron and and Dax Shepard. So like she's the only indie podcast, and the rest of the interview podcasts in that category are all like big names. So she's just like mind blown.
Okay.
So just the guest spot, and I know you have been talking to Dr. Goku about guesting on Guardians MH. Yeah. And so there's a lot of talk, a lot of cross talk, a lot of cross promotion. So listen to all our friends. We love them all on Twitter. You can find them there. And that's about going to do it. Doc, for anything you want to add before we leave?
Nah, man. I think you were pretty solid as Colossus.
Thank you. Appreciate all of the love there. Russian accent is always fun to play with. So for Doc Issues, I am Piotr Rasputin. Thank you for listening. We will see you next time.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.